Warning.
The opinions expressed in this content are those of the host and its guests.
Services allow
10, 9, 8,
Every call is
7,
ballistic.
6,
things the fire service can't
5,
stand here. Safely
4,
created new account.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Tales from the Tailboard podcast. My name is Isaac, your host, and my guest today is Cody Mecham. He is the author of Burning It Down and From the Ashes. He is a firefighter and an advanced EMT prior. Took a hiatus, came back to being firefighter, and I'm going to let him do a little bit more of his intro and tell you who he is.
All right. Yeah. Thank you for having me on. Like I said, my name is Cody Mecham. Currently a firefighter. Used to be into EMS, not so much anymore. Had to take a break from that. I've got 4 kids, wife, and we're just starting this journey of healing from PTSD. And I wanted to share it with the world and see what we can do to help.
Good, Jan. So you started in EMS and eventually moved fully into fire service. What originally pulled you into the emergency services in the first place, and what did those early days look like for you?
You know, I write about this in Burning It Down. It's when I was 6 years old, went on a field trip to the fire station, and one of the firefighters there put the gear on me, and it was just kind of from that moment on, it's all I could think about. That's what I was going to be. And that journey, it led into becoming a cadet at 16, going through all the schooling, going through all the training. And at 18, I was fully going.
I read your book. I loved it. You originally reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'd like you to read my memoir," and I was like, "Sure." And I've never had anybody offer me anything like that before, let alone for free. So I was like, sure, man, I'll read it. Why not? And then I started reading into it, and I was on 75 hard, which if you don't know what it is, you can just look it up. Too much to get into at the moment, but it requires 10 pages of reading a day, and I read that as my start to 75 hard. Like that was the book I started with. So I read a little over 10 pages a day, and as I'm reading it, I'm like, damn, I'm getting mad, I'm getting happy, getting angry, getting happy. And it's just a roller coaster of emotions because I felt what you felt. And I've only been doing this for 5 years. So I can't begin to sit there and say, like, I know everything that you're going through because I don't. But I've seen other people go through those issues. I've been through a divorce myself. I have kids myself. I've had moments where, they suck before I was even in fire and EMS. Such as the loss of a son, my dad, my brother, things like that, and the yelling, the explosiveness, yelling at your loved ones, and situations of that nature. But like your book goes into detail over the many years you've been doing this, and it really, for a better lack of words, paints a picture of what it's really like to not talk about it, to hold it in, and to not do anything with that. Can you go into more detail about? Like, was this therapy for you, writing the book, or was it just holding yourself accountable? Like, what was that to you?
So the book actually began as kind of me taking notes from therapy. Me and my wife, we'd started off going to marriage counseling, and then it shifted more into let's focus on my PTSD because that's pretty much the root of the problem, is the way that I couldn't see how I was reacting to things. And so I started taking notes throughout therapy, and it was like I got reading through the notes. I'm like, man, I can't be the only one out there that's been through this. I can't be the only one out there that's feeling this stuff. And so I started typing it out, and it just built and built and built. And soon I had this book, and I was like, the world needs to hear this. The first responder community needs to hear this because they need to know the truth.
Yeah.
They need to know that you're not alone in this process, and that things get very ugly sometimes, and there are ways forward.
So, I want to hear more about Dee. She seems like that person who was your mother figure when your mother wasn't there. Your mother was there for a large part of it, but had problems just like probably anybody's mother does. I mean, I know for me, I grew up personally with an alcoholic mother who made excuses to, well, not take me to the skating rink for a school function because she'd drink alcohol and that was her excuse not to go anywhere because she'd had DUIs multiple in the past. And, that was like, well, can't drive because I've been drinking. And, she doesn't make her a terrible mother. I mean, did that one action suck? Sure. But her as a mother was fine. So can you breach into your own mother and then breach into, because I can go on this too, having somebody on the outskirts that's not even part of your family that just becomes like, hey, that person is now my mom. Like she's a mother figure to me.
Right. And that's, I mean, that's how D is. D pretty much raised me. It was chaotic. D was loud. D was, I mean, she had her own issues, but throughout the whole process, looking back on it, I've always kind of called her my second mom anyway. But when I was writing this memoir and looking, reflecting back on all the memories I had and stuff, it was like, no, she was more of a mother figure than I ever gave her credit for, in her own rough way. But there's several moments in my life where I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. And my mom, she was in EMS. She had, and that's the thing is like, I write that in my memoir. I don't want to vilify my mom. She had her own traumas, and like I said in there, like hurt people. They don't know that they're passing that generational trauma on.
Say that
And
louder for the back.
so,
Hurt people hurt people.
yeah. And so I wanted to make sure to put D in there and to really so people could understand, like, she wasn't perfect. She
Mm-hmm.
had her whole list of problems, but it grew into something that was so much more powerful, and it gave me an insight of, okay, if I can find people like that will just stay in my life and not leave me,
Mm-hmm.
they're key building moments for my life, is to find that steady, this person's not going to leave me.
Yeah, 100%. So, reaching on more onto like the people that meant a lot to you in the book. Um, how was writing the book? Did you get any pushback from people at all? Like how you represented in the book, even though it was factual in your heart, maybe they didn't want to come to understanding like, hey, that's how I saw you. Like that may not be how you see yourself, but that's how I saw you. Did you receive any pushback about how people were perceived in the book?
Um, no, honestly, I gave a copy to my mom when it first came out, and she read it, and I mean, there was a little bit of awkward silence there for a second, but honestly, she's kind of started reaching out a little bit more now. And I think she's kind of realizing, hey, like, okay, I couldn't see my own fault in this at all. Um, so, I mean, hopefully it's a healing process for her as well, to be able to look at it and be like, oh, okay, I didn't see that I was doing this to you. I didn't see that this was going on. Um, there's some names in there that are redacted for legal issues and stuff like that. But for the most part, everybody that's read it that is a part of my life, they understand the journey and understand that, hey, this is what I went through. They understand that this is how I felt through the process. And I think it gave them more of an insight of, oh, okay, now I can see kind of where these key moments in your life link into these other moments, because that's where the trauma and stuff started. And then
Mm-hmm.
I wanted I wanted to hit that heavy in the book, is like, as first responders, military, our ACE scores our adverse childhood experiences scores are so much higher than the
Mm-hmm.
general public. And I wanted people to know that, like, hey, it's normal in our world to have this background, but I wanted to be able to bring it to light, like, but it also feeds into your career now, and
Absolutely.
it's gonna create that trauma. How we deal with our trauma is fed off of how we were raised and how we bring that forward.
Oh, 100%. And for the listeners out there, if you haven't heard or seen the book, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Burning It Down by Cody Mecham. I believe it's Cody J. Mecham, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can find it on Amazon. I got sent the read version on a digital version. It was great. I read it, and then he sent me a physical copy. If you can see it through the green screen here, of Through the Ashes. He also has it on the bookshelf behind him in his house there. What the cover of Burning It Down looks like is also behind him. And I have not read From the Ashes yet, but I have read Burning It Down all the way through, and it is a phenomenal book. I mean, I wanted to ask you about this too as well. How did your wife feel about the book? Because why I say that is because a lot of this comes from you holding yourself accountable for you, quote unquote, being the asshole. I recently had to do that myself when I got divorced from my wife, and theoretically I'm still married to her, but we're divorcing. It's been a 2-year process, only because I'm adopting her son. That's hers biologically. But I came into his life when he was 2. He's now 12. And I've told him, and I've seen him get angry at his brother in situations where I see how I acted towards him and he acts towards his brother. And I said, dude, I'm sorry. Like, I know what I did to you when you were younger is not okay. Like, I mean, I was never like physically abusive. I never hit nobody, but I was verbally abusive. And so, like, you know, I told him, and I see him come off angry because he learned that from me, and I had to come to grounds with this and go, that's not fucking okay. Like I'm sorry that you feel the need to do that, but that you're doing that because you witnessed me do that, and that's not okay. And you know, we can be better. I'm trying to be better. Like I'm doing what I can, and a lot of what I've read in your book was you no holds bar telling everybody exactly how you were, how you put up with shit. And you can cuss. Feel free to be completely open. This is an uncensored podcast. How was it coming to terms and literally listing out everything you've ever done?
It was hard. You know, during the writing process, I made sure that everything was ran through my wife. I gave her every page to read, because both of us have done things that we're not proud of. But through this process, honestly, it was healing for me at the same time as it was realizing the damage that I mean, going through therapy and stuff, like, I know, like, okay, I did damage, I did this, I did that. But writing the book, I being able to sit there and actually put it on paper, I was like, holy fuck, I fucked shit up. I was in a
Did you ever cry?
bad.
Like, honestly, did you ever like think about just like fucking almost bawl for a minute? Because I know I did.
Yeah, and it's like you said at the beginning, like, writing the book was the same thing. It was an emotional roller coaster. I'd start laughing, I'd start crying. There's a
Mm-hmm.
few things in the book that didn't come out until I was writing the book, that it just flowed onto the
Mm-hmm.
pages, and I read it afterwards, and it was just like, wow.
What the fuck? Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it is like, I see now the damage that I did in my relationship. And while we both have things that we're not proud of, 99% of that stuff stems from the way that I was acting, because
Mm-hmm.
I was a complete asshole. I would say hurtful things just to start a fight, just to be like, no, you're going to leave me. And realizing that now, it was a defense mechanism to me, is I want to push you away before you can hurt me, before you can abandon me.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Isn't it funny how we
that,
think that like that's what's gonna help? Like,
yeah,
hey, I want to push you away when it's like you're already pushing him away, and it's like
yeah,
you're not noticing these things until afterwards, and you're like, well, shit.
yeah. And that's it. And it's looking back at it, and there's no words that I can describe to say sorry to my kids. Like, looking back at the way, I mean, same thing. Like, I've never been
Same.
physically abusive to them, but I wasn't there for them. Emotionally, they could come
Mm-hmm.
in and tell me I love you, and if it was a bad day, it felt like they just told me that they hated me. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't process emotions right. My brain wouldn't allow it. And
I get
part of
triggered
part of
very
this
easily.
journey, what was that?
I was saying I get it for me. It was like I got triggered very easily. Like they could do the dumbest things, like look at this, daddy, look at this, and just the annoying things, and like for some reason that pissed me off. I'm like, I got mad, and I was like, it took me a while. Like there was a point, I think it's now been, I got it downloaded again, but at one point I like deleted Facebook, like to the point where like they erased me off the internet. It was like a 30-day process for it to like fully delete, but like once it did, it was gone. But why I wanted to do that was because I was surfing through videos on Facebook, the Facebook Reels, and I was going through that all the time, and I was watching my kids go, "Dad, I want to do this. Dad, I want to do that," and I'm like, "Yeah, 1 minute," and then realized 2 hours more had gone by because that was my coping mechanism. My coping mechanism was watching videos and numbing my mind, and I don't want anybody to think that I've got PTSD from the fire service. It definitely hasn't helped, but 5 years. And I tell people I've got 5 years on volunteer side, but I've got 2 years of actual working time. And that sounds stupid in a sense, but I'm a volunteer. Like I'm not working
Right.
every day like some people do. But that definitely hasn't helped. Most of my stuff comes from, why we got divorced, parenting issues, money issues, the death of our child, the death of my brother, my dad, my mom. It's like all these things. They're unhealed processes that the fire service definitely doesn't fix.
No,
Absolutely does not fix.
it makes us better at hiding it. It makes us better at pushing it down. And I mean, while we're young, we're
It gave
learning that
me,
process.
yeah, it gave me a reason to want to be a firefighter, like a why, but it didn't solve the issues. Like that's my why. My why is I want to help people because I wasn't helped when I needed help. So I don't want people to feel helpless, but that doesn't mean that I can just coast through life not being cured. Like I'm not cured, I'm not helped, I'm not relieved of any of the pain. I just put it somewhere else. And, at first I went, well, it's because I saw a bad call. It's because I did this or it's because I did that. Instead of just fucking saying, hey, my bad. It's my fault. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And,
And
reading your book, just it put me in a mental place where I was like, I like this guy. Like he's honest. He's putting himself out there. And if he can say, hey, I fucked up, so can I.
that's the whole process. That's the whole purpose of this book. I didn't write it to get rich. I've sold not very many copies of it, but to find people like that, like for that moment right there, that means the world to me because that's exactly why these books are out there, is so that other people can go, wow, he went through a lot, but he's trying
Mm-hmm.
and he's working and
Yeah.
it's moving forward.
Dude, your book will be a forever thing for me. Like I'll read that one, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from this one here. I mean, it's literally titled "Trauma Survival and Learning How to Stay," and I'm guessing that has a lot to do with suicide. And yeah, I felt that too. There was a point where, because of the marital problems, because of everything else, I didn't want my kids to see me gone. So I planned it out. I was in my truck with a 45 sitting in my lap, going, "I'm gonna call 911," and I was on with that department at that time. I was like, "I'll call 911. I'll say, hey, come clean me up," kind of situation. And as soon as I see the lights and sirens turn down my driveway, or turn down the road I'm on, pop, done. I'm done. And it was going to be so quick because they would arrive on scene at the time I did it, to where it would be like, hey, they're not going to let you come see me. That's not going to happen, you know? So they wouldn't be able to see it. I'd be gone. I would have completed what I wanted to get done, and essentially solve all the problems I thought I had. One phone call changed it, and I said I'm gonna make one phone call because I just had this inkling, like it was like I'm a Christian. I wouldn't say it was quite God, but I would say it was something. Even as a Christian, I just don't feel like God was tugging on my shoulder, but I do, and I don't. I'll put it that way.
All right.
I felt like something said make a phone call, so I did, and I called Lee, my father-in-law at the time, and I said, "Hey," I was like, He answered. I said, "Hey, I need your help. I'm having a hard time." He said, "What's up?" I said, "I'm going to bring you something. I don't want any questions asked. I don't want nothing. I need to bring something to you, and that's it." He said, "Okay," and he lived 5 minutes down the road. So I loaded up, drove into his driveway, gave him my 45 in a case. Also gave my 12 gauge shotgun that was in the back. That was a duck gun. And I said, he said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "They will be." And I pulled out of his driveway and I went home. And that was it. And I said nothing to my soon to be ex wife. I said nothing to her for about a year. And, finally I'm like breaking down, crying at one point and going, yeah. I was like, but I guess you don't remember the time I was in the fucking driveway bawling my eyes out about to fucking put one in my head. And to me, this is the fucked up part. I guess now, I mean, I'm being honest with myself, but like I didn't feel it then. Now I do. I was using it as leverage. I was trying to pull her heartstrings to make her feel a certain way because, hey, you bet you didn't know I was going to kill myself,
Right.
situations. And it's like that's not okay. That's never okay to do to somebody.
No.
And because you're fucked up and won't deal with your own bullshit, you know, you're gonna torment somebody else and make them feel bad over your decisions. And that a whole lot of your book was it was like teaching me going through it, going, hey, that's not okay. Like yeah, I felt that way too, but that's not okay.
No. And
You were talking about getting help and whatnot, and I was like, okay, cool.
and that's kind of, and that is, learning how to stay, like, there's a few moments in my life where I tried to end it, and the last moment in there, I talk about, you know, New Year's party, and we got home and get into an argument over some text messages on a cell phone, and I lose my shit. And same thing, I walk outside, I grab the 45, walked outside, and I don't know, I can't quite explain it. It could be a mental break, it could be the alcohol, but I'm standing out there, Utah, middle of January, -32 here,
Mm-hmm.
and just nothing but my boxers. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking out there and I can see all the faces of these kids that I've lost on calls. And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
it could just be a mental break. It could be divine intervention. And I remember putting the gun to my head and pulling the trigger and click, which
Mm-hmm.
is weird because I grew up. I'm a security contractor. I've done quite a few things in my life, and my guns are never they're never not chambered. And so for that to be unchambered was just, and when I heard that click and not a boom, it was life changing for me because it was like, holy fuck, I have a problem. This
Mm-hmm.
this is getting way out of hand. Like this is me. This is my problem.
Before we keep rolling, I want to give a quick shout out to Indushift Apparel, their first responder owned brand that actually understands the culture, the long nights, the dark humor, and the pride that comes with the job. If you want gear that represents the fire and EMS mindset without being corny, check them out. You can find the link through my channels, and every purchase helps support creators and conversations just like this one. All right, let's get back to the episode. Thanks, guys, for your support. Well,
And that
one
that
thing I
kind of
got from
started the
that
healing
was
journey.
it didn't. Okay, so there. This is going to sound insensitive, not towards you, just towards people in general that have this situation. Some people do it for attention. I mean, not everybody, but there are some who do. And reading that passage of the book where you talked about that, I did not feel a sense of he's just doing this for attention. I felt like raw emotion, like I'm fucking done.
And
Like
that was the end of the story right there. That was supposed to be the end of the story. It was supposed to be one trigger pull and story's over.
I'm
And
glad it wasn't.
right, I'm very glad it wasn't now too. Like, and writing that part of the story was very difficult because it hits really hard. Even today, it it hits really hard knowing that I was that close to my son never being born. I was that close to my kids growing up without a dad. Like
Mm-hmm.
my and the trauma that I would produce onto my family. Like it hurts.
I mean, weren't you were in between homes at this time too, right?
We just barely found our own house, so I mean, just
Yeah.
barely.
You moved out of your mom's house, went to Dee's house, and then, not Dee's house. You moved out of Dee's house, or because towards
Out
the
of my
very
mom.
later into the story.
Yeah, when we moved out here, we were living with my mom for a while, and then finally found our own place. And it was right after we found our own place, and yeah, it was things were moving forward, but I wasn't moving forward, and
Yeah,
it about ended the
it was
story.
that change of scenery was supposed to help, was supposed to work. Yeah. So you kind of touched on this, but I want to touch on like the actual like the point that made you step away. You took a hiatus from fire and EMS before eventually coming back to just fire. What was happening in your life or career at that point that you realized I need to step away? Like, what was that turning point?
Realistically, it was my brother had just started a company out here, and I was like, okay, thought about it. He kept trying to get me to come on and help manage it, and I mean, firefighting's been my identity since I was a kid, so it wasn't going to happen. And that last year that I was on the department, I think I lost 5 kids, just boom, 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 back to back. I mean, we're on a rescue truck, so and on I-80.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so they're all super traumatic calls. They're not, and I think that's kind of what pushed me more towards that. Okay, it's time to take a break. I didn't realize it was going to be a long as break as it was, but it definitely pushed me that far to where it was like I knew something was wrong, but I didn't want to admit something was wrong at that point. But
Mm-hmm.
I was hurting. Kids always stick with me, and I was hurting.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to. I mean, if you want to, that's fine. I don't want to stay on like all of the the sappy, sad stuff. I mean, I'm okay with it, but like I want to steer this conversation where you want it to go as well. So I mean, if there's something specific you want to talk about, please feel free to guide the conversation. I'm okay with that. This is purely an open conversation. Like I have zero agenda. Like if there's something specific you want to talk about, let's talk about it.
Okay.
Let's see. Identity in the job. That's a good question. A lot of first responders struggle with separating their identity from the uniform. During your time away, how much of your identity was still tied to that job, and what did losing that feel like? So, do you know who the salty paramedic is? So, Cody Spalding. He talks about the 8 plays in his book. He has one called "Don't Lose Yourself," and one of the plays, I think it was number 6. He talks about identity, and he says, it's okay to live the job, love the job, eat, sleep, ship, whatever the job. But when you take PTO, when you take vacation time, when you leave the job for a little bit, such as you did, leave that shit behind, because you can still come back to it. The job is still going to be the job when you come back. But specifically, what was that like for you? I mean, keeping that in effect. I mean, did you still want to be a firefighter? Was it hard for you to like just forget about it? What was that?
100% of my identity was tied. I mean, when I first stepped away, and I can realize it now, that was 100% of my identity. That's what caused a lot of issues when I stepped away, is because I felt like, I look at it and I was like, no, I came out here to help, and now I've given up fire, and that's my life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, now it's like, okay, I can step away and I can do something. It's kind of like, it's not 100, but I love the job, still do, always have, always will. But I can take time away. I can go out with my family and enjoy something without having to worry about fire. When I first stepped away, if I heard sirens in the background, it was a full on just adrenaline dump, panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Just knowing that I could be out there saving somebody, or I could be out there doing what I love with my brothers and sisters, but I'm stuck here. I'm doing the average Joe job.
Mhm.
and I couldn't
The
look
Go
at
Get
it.
'em brothers doesn't go away.
Yeah, it's and looking back, it's terrible because my identity is a father and husband first now. Like that's what
Mhm.
I'm a father and a husband first now. Like they are the most important things to me right now. Um, fire,
As they should be.
yeah, and I've pushed fire down, and it's good for me because I still have that drive, I still have that fight, I still have that love of the job, but it's not 100% me anymore, which I think
So
is
speak on that for the new guys, for the probies who just eat, sleep, shit, breathe fire, right? When you put your family first and you put your family, your life, your kids, wife, whatever first, and then you come back to the fire, does that mean you're losing out on promotions? Does that mean you're losing out on the job? Or does that make it better?
it makes it better, honestly. Like I'm not so stressed because before it was I didn't care what they thought. Like it was all about fire. If I had to skip a birthday to go work a shift that wasn't mine, or I had to do whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that came first. But no, having my family come first now has created such a healthier relationship with the emergency services for me. It's
Now,
because
I've always had a thought on that, and maybe this is just a firefighter or me, but like when you think of Thanksgiving or Christmas or birthdays or things like that, right? Like sometimes a birthday falls on a Wednesday, and you got school or work that week, and you choose to wait until Saturday or Sunday to have the birthday party. What's any different if you're on shift and it's like, hey, bud, sorry I'm working on your birthday, but we're going to do something really cool when, the next 48 hours that I'm off? Like, what's the difference there?
it's tough
Keeping the
because
promise and actually doing something with it, or what?
that's where I was gonna go with that is the problem with it is yeah, we say that and then we get off shift and we're too exhausted to go do anything fun. We're too the job has taken that from our kids. The job my wife, she started doing TikToks just recently and watching her tell her side of PTSD and what it does to the family has been amazing because even
I'll
now it's
I'll definitely go follow that page.
yeah, even now it's opening my eyes up because it's like, oh, man, yeah, I see how hard it is for fire, for EMS, for fire, for emergency service families to
For the
sit
viewers, for the
there.
women out there that want to follow, what is that page?
Ooh, well, geez, I don't know what her page is. It's making me come. She's tagged me in a few videos, so you can go on my TikTok and probably find her pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I do have a pretty good fan base, not major, but some females, some males that follow it, and I'm sure that some of the females would be more than happy to follow another female and like understand what it's like for the job.
Yeah, and it is because we don't sometimes, and even today, some days I forget that, hey, my family's got to come first. Like I'll let the struggle hit me harder than it needs to be, and not realizing I have all the tools I need right here.
I think that's a benefit of dealing with said you know, alcoholic mother, because, I dealt with not being able to do something because of work or because of, I'm too tired, or in her case, she's drunk. So, like, I don't feel like I could do that with a good heart. Like, I may come off shift and have worked my ass off for 24 hours. And I have. I mean, I work 24 hours occasionally when I'm on the EMS unit. Um, yeah, we have a station, but sometimes we get our ass kicked in and we
Yeah,
run, right? We ran 8 calls that day, which to some people that's not a lot, but for perspective, when you're a slow company and you're used to only getting maybe 1 or 2 calls a day, and then you get 8 to 10, you get your ass kicked in, um, because it's not normal to you. But I can't see coming home going, sorry, I can't do that. I'm too tired. Now, 7 o'clock in the morning, I may say, hey, let me get an hour, 2 hour nap in. Let me recoup for a second, and then I'm all yours all day. You know,
right.
uh, let me get a quick nap in, and then I'll wake up at 9 o'clock, whatever the case may be, and said we'll do our shit all day long, and then I can sleep at nighttime. No big deal. And for the most part, that's been really productive. They like that. I'm not blowing them off all day. They understand. Most of the time, like, hey, go watch a movie, and after your movie's over, then we can play.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, that's awesome because it is it's giving them that insight. You're breaking that generational trauma right there. You're following through with your promise, and that's something that early on that I wish I could have done with my kids, because most of my kids are grown up now. I've got an 18-year-old, and then my twins are 17, going to be 18 this year. And
I'm the
so,
youngest of 7 siblings, so I've fortunately, have gotten to live from others' experiences. Going, that's fucked up. I'm not gonna do that. And then obviously, reading your book and seeing people like you who have suffered and gone through these situations, and who aren't still stuck in those situations, and then still trying to tell you to, hey, don't do that. And it's like, pot calling the kettle black. You're telling me not to do these things, but you're still doing them. Yet you listen to someone like yourself who says, hey, I wouldn't do that. I've already suffered through that. Here's what happened. And here's some more constructive things that you can do. And then you look at your life and you see some of the videos you post in situations like this, right? And you go, oh, he's a solid dude. And you can then trust what these people say. And that makes a world of difference.
yeah, and writing these books, that's kind of where I wanted to go with that. Is I didn't go the fancy send it to editors and stuff. These are my words. They're the way that I present things, because I wanted that connection. I wanted people to be able to be like, oh, okay, this is somebody just having a conversation with me. This is somebody that can say, hey, if you do this, this is what the outcome of that's going to be. Like, don't do it. Or, hey, if you do this, the outcome can be completely different. It could be awesome for you. So try it.
Mm-hmm. So walking away from EMS, you ultimately came back as a firefighter, but chose to leave the EMS behind. I'm assuming you let your EMS cert lapse, so there was no like, hey, you come, work one
Right.
shift. You're like, nope, sorry, it's last, can't do it. That's a big decision, especially in this world when 80-90% of our calls are EMS. What led you to that choice?
I mean, moving where we move now it made it a lot easier for me, just because our fire EMS are separate systems. We have a third party EMS system out here. Um, we still run some medical calls, lift assist, stuff like that, but it's not so much. And I don't know really how to explain it. For me, it was more the EMS side of it it's easier for me on fire because I'm there on the scene, and the tragedies still happen, the crazy stuff still happens, but I have more time to process through that. With EMS, it was, you're working on the patient, then you got to load them, and you're still working on them all the way to the hospital. And I think it was that time spent with the patients that was more damaging to me, because it was, damn, I did everything I could. I was trained to save this person's life, and I did not save their life.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing now, like, yeah, I mean, I could probably go back to EMS. I just don't want to chance that. Knowing now, like, it's like, yeah, I did everything I could, like, and I got to leave it at that.
Yeah. So you just don't want to set yourself up for more heartbreak, more failure
Yeah.
that you feel is failure. Now, I mean, did anybody ever tell you in class or school, whatever you EMT class, if you think you're not going to kill somebody, you're wrong?
Yeah, I'm sure in basic class, like they push that pretty hard. And but do you ever
Mhm.
listen? And that's the thing. I
No.
tried to. Yeah, people tell me all that. Heard it all the time. Oh, you're gonna see this, and yeah, whatever. It's not gonna affect me. Have you seen my
I have,
life?
yeah. As a basic, I haven't killed anybody yet, thank God. But like, uh, I put somebody in the hospital on Thanksgiving Day because of uh, gas poisoning. It was like natural gas. They called us for like a blood sugar check, said their meter was too high. we got out there and like, so we're walking to the door. We're like, you smell that? And he's like, yeah, it smells like gas. I'm like, oh, okay. So we get in there and we can still kind of smell it. We're like, kind of curious, like what is that? And we're like, hey, do you guys smell that gas? I'm like, yeah, we think it's a broken line, across the road when they were digging or whatever. Da da da. And so we take his blood sugar and it reads high. Okay. Check it again. Finally reads again, 594. Oh shit. We're like, hey, go ahead and start fire out here just to do a gas check just in case, because the first thing that popped in my head was gas binding to hemoglobin, could be reading high on purpose, could be getting a false reading. They come outside and their whiffers start going off. And we're like, hey, we're going to get you guys in the back of the ambulance and like get you guys separated away. Not, separate them, but, away from the gas. So we finally get out to the ambulance, and I'll spare you the long story. We can talk about that off air. But long story short, they're in the hospital, and they stayed there for 5 days. And away from their family on Thanksgiving, away from everything, and I felt like shit. I mean, I helped them. They got the help they needed, but I felt like shit because, like, I took Thanksgiving away from this family. Because now they're spending the 5 days in the hospital instead of with their family, and I just was like, man, I don't know why, but I couldn't get over that. I was like, this sucks.
And that's the hard part with us is we are so pre-programmed to see what we did wrong rather than what we did good. I mean, because you saved that family's life, right? But
Well,
like
at least I hope I did.
Right?
I still
But
don't
all
know
you can
if
see,
what I did was actually helped, but I know that I got them out of the situation.
I mean, as basic, who would think, hey, this gas is binding to the hemoglobin? Like that right there is amazing. And
I had
that
really good teachers.
that's amazing to know. And it's just like, you saved their lives, but as a first responder, we're like, yeah, but I did this wrong. Like this is what this is what I did wrong. And our brains are so programmed to do that, like to think, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And not focus on what we did amazing that day.
Looking ahead from the book From the Ashes, you also wrote a book From the Ashes, which we'll dive into in another episode because I definitely want to have you on again if you're willing to come on. Without giving too much away, how does that book build on the story from Burning It Down?
So From the Ashes, I started writing pretty much right after I finished Burning It Down. So before Burning It Down even released, I started working on this one. And it's more of the present. It's more of the tools that have helped. It's more of me saying, hey, these are the tools and the methods that I've come up with, or that I've learned, or that this, and this has helped me out. And the way that I've moved forward to become where I'm at now, because I'm in a million times better place than I was even when I started writing Burning It Down. And so From the Ashes it's more of a tool than it is it's my story, but it's more of a tool for people to use to go, hey, maybe try this.
So how many years total were you in the fire service?
So I'm going on now, I will be on 11 this year.
11 years.
Yeah.
How many years in was it when you started realizing problems existed?
Till I actually started realizing I was probably 6 years. Like
6 years in?
Yeah, before I started realizing there's some major shifts in me.
Yeah. Okay, so what's one of the best stories that you have in fire? Like what's one of the coolest fire stories that you have?
Honestly, I've got quite a few, but learning experience just a couple weeks ago. We were doing a live training exercise in an abandoned hotel here, and I was on RIT, and complacency took place. I was positioned myself right outside of a window, and we were doing some flashover training in there, and one of the guys accidentally kicked the door open and caused it to backdraft. And long story short, I went flying, unconscious, got myself a
Oh wow.
pretty good TBI. But
Damn.
it just shows that even now, like complacency for me takes place, and you know, joke at the firehouse about this now. Like it's just my chief calls me Boom Boom because it got blown up, and I was just like, hey, I was like, but how many people get hit with a backdraft and are still talking afterwards? So I feel pretty good.
That's true. You watch that movie Backdraft, and now you're like, I lived it. That's fucking
Yeah. It's just, I mean,
yeah.
but it's cool because I could look back at it and they're like, well, what do you remember? And I was like, I remember seeing the flash, that flash of orange light, and then it was lights out for me.
You
And I
just,
tell
just
a
look at
couple,
Chief like, I remember an orange light, and boom.
yeah, and it was done. Um, but there's a couple of good ones, and that's why I put a few in my memoir because we do have a funny side to the fire, in EMS world. We'd gone on one call and rollover accident, get there, and I mean the car's on its roof. I'm walking up, my fire chief's walking up with me, and you could just smell the tequila coming out of this car. I mean, it was horrible. And bent down, look in there, and this guy has got his ass up in the air over the passenger seat, trying to buckle himself in, and he's looking at us. And he's like, I don't know where the driver went. You can see that he had cut his seatbelt, and he's trying to buckle himself in the passenger seat. And it's just stories like that. I mean, we've got bad stories, but we've also got these just hilarious stories to tell.
That's awesome. So, like, dark humor definitely plays a role into this. Like, how did it play into your career? Like, some people like, oh, I don't like dark humor because that's insensitive, and some people are like, oh, I love it. So, like, where do you lie out on that?
I can go both ways. If I could sense that the guy's not feeling comfortable, then all right, yeah, I'll hold back. But I can get some pretty dark humor going on. When I was security contracting, we had one guy. Most of us came from either military or EMS backgrounds, and we had one guy that he was completely new at everything. And he come walking in there one shift change. We were changing shifts, and we were just bantering back and forth war stories. Yeah. And he went white as a ghost because he's just like, how can you guys talk like that? It was like
You
that.
mentioned that in your book. It was great.
Yeah, it's just like that's how we talk. Like, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Like, why don't you give it a couple of years and you'll be the same way? Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly. And it is. I mean, some people go out there and say, hey, it's an unhealthy coping mechanism, but it's really not unhealthy unless you let it be unhealthy. If you're using that as your only coping mechanism, then yeah, it's unhealthy. But humor has been so helpful in everybody's life that it really can be a beneficial coping mechanism to get that conversation even started. Like, hey, let's joke about this, but okay, let's be a little bit serious and talk about it as well.
Oh, yeah. So I see you got the Zero Sleep hoodie. That's sponsored by Indo Shift Apparel.
Love it.
Yeah. Tim's a great guy, man.
I
I don't know if you noticed, but we have coffee now. So it's Start of Shift Coffee.
I'll have to give me some of that too.
All right. So we're about that hour mark, and I like to kind of keep my episodes right about an hour. So before we get into the rapid fire questions, I want you to go ahead and take a few minutes and just plug anything you want to plug. The book. If you've got a podcast going, you got something going on, feel free to just let everybody, listeners, know where they can find you at.
All right, yeah. So we got Burning It Down and From the Ashes. Both of them are available on Amazon. Burning It Down actually just came out on Audible, so if you guys want to go check it out on Audible, the guy I had narrated did a phenomenal job. And you find me on TikTok as Firefighter Mecham, and get on there and learn some stuff.
Hell yeah. So going to rapid fire questions, there's something you don't just don't think about it. This is like what's in the top of your head. Engine or truck?
Truck.
Why?
I'm a rescue junkie. I was lucky enough to start on heavy rescue, and I am a rescue junkie.
Through and through, huh?
Yep.
Coffee before shift or energy drink halfway through?
Energy drink all the way through every day. That's why I love this hoodie so much, is because it's caffeine, chaos, and repeat. That's usually my life.
Absolutely. Best stress relief after a bad call.
Ooh, I've got quite that one. I'm not going to be able to rapid answer that one, but yeah, I don't know if I can answer that.
So, like, just what makes you feel better after a shift?
After a shit, it's coming home. Seeing my family light up, seeing my family is, for me now, that's my best stress relief. If I've had a bad day, I had a bad call, just having my wife put her hand on my shoulder or lay my head in her lap, that seems to do the trick.
Perfect. One piece of advice for a brand new firefighter or EMT.
Don't hold it in. Don't talk about what's haunting you before it becomes worse, because we need to break that stigma in the culture. We need to make it okay to say, hey, this is affecting me.
100%. And then number 5, one myth about fire and EMS professions you wish people understood better.
Don't watch 911 or any of those other fire shows and think that that's how this works. They're very dramatized and very, it's not. We're human, and we have fun.
Absolutely. Well, guys, you heard it here on Tales from the Tailboard podcast, where I interview firefighters, military, anybody in the first response era. You could be a doctor, you could be a nurse, you could be EMTs, you could be whatever it is. If you got something to do that helps people, I want to talk to you. And today, I spoke with Cody Mecham. He is an author, firefighter, EMT advanced, and no longer does that, but he is still fighting fires for the good of boys. And thank you for coming in and listening. Thank you for enjoying and listening. If you made it this far, please go check out a book of Burning It Down, or a copy of Burning It Down book by Cody Mecham. Check out Through the Ashes. There's a lot to be said and a lot more to be said. This isn't the end. Cody, thank you for being my guest today. I appreciate you. Thanks for everything you've said. Thanks for writing the book. Thanks for offering it to me so I could read it. I learned a lot from it. I learned there's more and more every day that I sit there and I quote from that book as I do anything. There's times where I might forget parts of the book, and I'm like, hey, it's time to reread it, because there's just something about it that needs to be reread. Yeah. Cody, thank you for coming on. Thanks for being my guest. To all the listeners, thanks. Cody, anything else you want to say?
Thanks for having me on. It's been amazing. You're not alone out there, people. Hold strong.
Perfect. And guys, remember, the world's dangerous. Be safe out there. And if you're not, I'll see you soon.
Dispatch, medic 1, show medic 1 en route.
Getting hard to sleep.